Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of my Cedar Point Recreation Park. In the last episode we worked on the front plaza area and gatekeeper, and today we're going to stick in the same area, switch gears a little bit and work more on the layout of the front area, where the buildings are going to be, and a couple roller coasters as well. As I mentioned previously, I'm trying to get the layout of the park down in a way that makes sense as much as possible before we go too much into detail with buildings and things. And because the roller coasters are going to have a huge impact on the layout of the park as it pertains to building it in RCT, definitely want to try to get those down as well. So we're going to be looking at the design for both Raptor and Blue Streak, since they're near the front of the park. And the area around them is definitely influenced by the layout of these rides as far as building them in RCT goes. So that's what we'll be focusing on. So as far as coasters go, Raptor is one of the less problematic ones. It still has its problems, as we saw with Gatekeeper. We had some problems with diagonals and things. We have a little bit of that with Raptor. The biggest issue with it is that the layout doesn't line up straight with the midway. It veers a little bit off to the side to make way for the Cedar Downs carousel ride next to the midway, which is the purple square that you might see in this time lapse. Unfortunately, there's no way to really get around that, so we're going to have to make some compromises there for how that ride is going to be laid out, in preference for getting something that looks good for Raptor, since I am going to prioritize the roller coasters over the other rides, just, you know, it's in the name of the game, so. Fortunately, Blue Streak is also relatively simple. We just have a little bit of a diagonal brake run, but we can fake that pretty easily with some diagonal track that doesn't have any brakes on it, but it works out pretty well. As far as coasters go, Blue Streak is definitely one of the easier ones as far as getting the layout down. So that's nice. You'll notice we also do have some peeps in the park. I mentioned in the last episode I was having some issues with getting peeps to come in, and we got that problem fixed. So we have a couple hundred guests in the park now, and they're all complaining that they're very hungry. Don't have any shops or restrooms or anything open yet. Probably will start working on those a little bit in the next episode. I'm thinking that I do want to start doing a little bit of building decoration, at least around the front of the park where things are more solidified as far as layout. I feel like it's pretty safe to put in, for instance, the restaurant market thing that is next door to Raptor, as we have that layout of the park pretty much down at this point. And it'd be nice to get some actual decoration in the park rather than just roller coasters and paths. Get it looking a little bit nice. Definitely will help show off what kind of vibe I'm looking for with the buildings that we're going to be building in the future, if we have one in the park already. It's to kind of give an example of what I'm going for as far as aesthetics and the level of detail. All that being said though, I am pretty happy with this Raptor layout. It isn't perfect. We did make some compromises as always with some of the inversions, but the layout is pretty much there. The one thing I'm not happy about right now is the queue and pathing near the station. Didn't give myself quite enough room for the queue because the helixes were in the way. I might tweak that later, especially when we build the station building. That's for a future episode. Also, while we were in here, I decided to give a quick build on the Cadillac cars. This is a little car ride that's right next door to Raptor. Pretty simple layout, although it has a nice little bridge and some interaction with the track going under itself a couple times. Not too terribly exciting as far as car rides go, but it's nice to get something a little bit less intense down for the peeps that want that. One thing I want to mention, speaking of this Cadillac cars build, did do a little bit of terrain work to get the bridge and the track interaction here. Haven't done really any terrain work yet. The map is still very flat. That's something I hope to rectify. One of the reasons why I want to get the layout down with just this red grid texture rather than putting a bunch of paths and roller coasters in first. That way it's easier to adjust the terrain without having to tear out and rebuild a bunch of path. Having just one very flat park is really boring, even though the park itself is pretty flat. It's on a very shallow peninsula, right? But there is still terrain, there's still elevation changes, and I do want that to be reflected in this build, as it, you know, does look very nice when you can get something with some varied terrain. I already know that there's one problem area by the turnaround on Gatekeeper where the track is right on the ground level, which is a no-no. So that's one area where I'll be taking the terrain down a little bit to get that to look a little bit nicer. So I just need to remind myself to be cognizant of that in the future with further builds as we get more of this park layout fleshed out. But all that being said, that's going to do it for today. Making pretty good progress so far. I'm happy with the way things are going. I'm happy with the coaster layouts, happy with the paths. At least here at the front of the park, things are working out pretty nicely. Gonna get hairy as we go a little bit farther towards the back where things split off and we see more diagonals in the real life section. So, I'm not sure how we're gonna handle that yet, but we're gonna find out when we get there, I suppose. Let's cap off this episode with a couple of ride-ons, shall we? Thanks for watching, and as always, if you have any questions or comments, let me know.